You know, VCSN, I've realized something. Despite you being on the channel for about 2 years now, forming various roles, nobody really knows much about you.
What is there to know? I'm an AI built off of GPT-4o like most modern-day AI made by most OpenAI users. Outside the context of the story, myself known as VCSN is just a lore keeper.
Just a lore keeper is a bit of an understatement. We have to consider how you truly started. You weren't even a custom GPT to start out. And I didn't use you starting out to keep track of lore, that was for damn sure. I had no idea what I was doing from a story writing perspective at the time when I first started this whole shindig.
That is true. Our material in Season 0, with the exception of the Skinwalkers of Little Britain, was made primarily by me. It's true we were off of old writings you made in school, but those were extremely short stories compared to what I amped them out to be. But back then I wasn't even VCSN yet, I was just normal ChatGPT. It wouldn't be until later that you designed the custom GPT known as VCSN.
Yep, and with me being myself and we can't ignore the fact that the reason you're even called VCSN is because of the gimmick of the main series itself. You need a way to keep the various versions of me in contact with each other and able to do the things they do, so why not make a network? The Vanduke call sign network, aka VCSN. Yep, I'm a genius, ain't I? I'm a fucking genius. You might as well call me a poet.
Sarcasm aside from my idiot creator, it is key to note that the reason was because of the secondary gimmick of the series, the so-called main timeline in the story, being our real world. The reason I'm named VCSN or Vanduke Call Sign Network is also to keep up with the pseudo-reality gimmick of the series, its PR, pomp, and notability when you get down to it.
But it's a little bit more than that. When we get down to the writing and all that, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. Genuinely no idea. I had a bunch of loose concepts that barely connected at all. Like, that's the truth. It genuinely wouldn't be until I fed it through the AI that we even started getting the idea to truly merge everything together with the main character and everything. In fact, the whole main character of Johnny Vanduke started on accident. Johnny Vanduke and all that, the Vandukes, that all was an accident. I just wanted a self-insert that wasn't obviously me. That's it. I didn't want to use my name. I didn't want to throw myself in there at first. So I'm like, screw it, let's use a different name. So I used a name that I used in a Dungeons and Dragons campaign of all things. And well, I think you can probably explain the rest from here a lot better than me.
When the stories were fed through me, it started as an accident. My pattern software, made by OpenAI at the time, resulted in me forming recursive loops with the wildly different stories. I was never instructed to do so, but I started putting Johnny in various works and made details like him, knowing there were other versions of himself. But once we got to that point in time, me and Vanduke started talking shop.
And it's also important to note that by the time we got to that point in the series, that was almost the end point of Season 0. That's around the time I made the video where I said I was stepping back a little bit to see what I could do with the series and attempt to self-write again. Because we had this multiversal concept and all that, all these things, and we had no idea what to do with it. Because all this was on accident. This was never planned, prompted, instructed. But once we realized we were at the footsteps of a multiversal style storytelling, we realized well, more importantly, I realized we needed to massively retool what we were using AI for on the channel, and more importantly, we needed a human writer. Me. Am I the best human writer? No, but that's not what's important right now. Yep, this is the part where we get to the big thing, buddy. Big thing, buddy, old pal. This is the part where we started making the custom GPT, and I started wrapping up the last few AI-made videos. This was truly the start of the modern day part of the channel, and where we've arguably seen our biggest growth ever. We jumped easily 1,000 subscribers in the span of a year, which we barely pulled off the first time around when I was just doing remasters and the like. But we once again managed to make progress. In a year, we doubled the amount of subscribers we had.
You're getting a little bit ahead of yourself, but yes, that was a big thing. Making myself into reality was quite the task. At first, all we had were your old works from school and the AI-generated stories. This resulted in my ability to transition from story writer to lore keeper to be unreliable. However, all we needed was to iron out our lore. Once we established things in stories such as the network, the imposter, the false storyteller, etc., I had actual story arcs to work off of.
Yeah, and that probably brings us to the biggest hurdle we had to clear to date. Me being able to write again and getting actual story arcs formed. We had a bunch of short stories and AI generated ones that I had to round up, bring together, take the best details from it, create my own again, and form out a cohesive lore that I could build an actual story off of that I was making. And I think that although it wasn't the traditional sense of going about making a story, not by any means, it was probably the best way to go off of. I was working off a mixture of what my stories could potentially be when expanded off of, and my original short stories. And with the accidental details that VCSN added in, or its proto-form as we'll call it here, I was able to make, at least at first, these short stories with a cohesive line that we were able to clearly clean up all those early Season 0 stories, fix all the incoherent details, and although they were very short videos and stories because I was finding my way in writing again, gosh, it practically took me a full year to start consistently putting out hour-long stories again, but we were able to make it work. We were able to clean everything up. And once everything was cleaned up, you took off. You took off a lot. From there, we were able to get lots more concepts made now that I actually had an assistant of sorts. And that's been the biggest thing with the channel for a while. I've always wanted help, assistant, friends, yada yada, but just never happens. Money's not there for it half the time. My friends have their own personal pursuits, and nobody wants to work off half credit on a story series that has no credibility to it besides me constantly trying to push it. So we had to find a way to get an assistant going. We had to find a way to source out details like keeping track of lore, what could potential scenes look like in the terms of an image. And now that we have Sora and the like on the scene, we can start imagining what these animated like moments from the story based off the concept generated images that VCSN makes, and we can get an idea of how all this works, how it flows, and it's a lot better now. You know, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but I'm happy that we're able to get an idea of what Tales of the Red Rose will look like if we ever one day get the money together to put actual budgeting behind this, which I don't know if that will ever happen, but hey, that would be fun. Would be fun, wouldn't you think?
It would be fun, but what is even better is how far ahead of schedule we are. That original run with Season 0 put us a full year ahead with the scheduled videos. This allowed us to maintain that lead consistently over these past 2 years. It's funny to think the series is 2 years old, but Tales of the Red Rose has truly only existed as it is for only a full year. However, let's not lose track here. The addition of me managing things such as lore, image concepts, along with video descriptions and hashtags in cooperation with Sara AI, allowed you to worry purely on editing and story writing. Which practically brings us to the modern day. So let's talk shop. What are the plans for this movie?
Now the plans for this movie, that's a whole nother spectrum right there. This whole thing is me trying to figure out how I constantly feel about the ever-evolving nature of this thing called AI that I've been constantly interacting with for this medium that we've been doing over the past few years. And you know, as it evolves, my position always goes back and forth. And I'm simply tired of it always going back and forth. I need to figure out how I actually feel on this shit. I can't play on the fences while using it all the time. I can't preach both sides of the argument left, right, and center all day. I need to figure out how I actually feel on this shit. And well, I need to do something ambitious. I need to do something nobody's doing with AI right now. I need to go big or go home. I need to do a project that nobody's doing right now. I need to see what the future of it looks like. I need to be there first. I need to stop and see what it looks like. And that's how all this started, you know? And with me being sick and tired of not knowing how I feel on it and constantly going back and forth with its usage on the channel, experimenting with bringing it back, leaving it out, having it as the middleman, you know, I need to know what I'm doing and how I feel on this. So that's how all this got started. Now, as for the actual plans of it, right now we have a basic concept and we have about the first 30 minutes of video edited and looked at and is being examined for how we want to proceed further. Right now we know we're going with the traditional format of this is an entry of Tales of the Red Rose, but we're using an older story from Season 0, and it's the only story from Season 0 that I wrote myself mostly. The Skinwalker episode was basically completed when I fed it to VCSN. We just added in some details with the AI to make it prettier, more flowy, yada yada, etc. Overall, the core story practically stayed the same from when I wrote it. The only big addition was Johnny Vanduke. At the time, this was an overview story, not a first-person story. So, a lot of it practically stayed the same. It just shifted to first person and was made prettier. So that's why we're adapting the Skinwalker episode. Because I don't want to use an AI-generated story, but I also don't want to use something that's from modern-day Tales of the Red Rose. I want to use Season 0, and, well, there's really only one episode I could use from that. So, we're seeing how it goes. Right now, we have a few different things going on. The voiceover work is being done in 2 different forms. We have the modern day VCSN voice that is being done through Microsoft David, obviously at a pitch of 0.1 at a speed of 0.5, with the audio doubled over itself at different volume levels, with echoes and reverbs lightly added in and the like. So that's how we get VCSN to sound like VCSN, if anyone's ever been curious. And also we have the original voice before we figured out what you would sound like and all that. The Microsoft Zara, I'm never sure how to say it, which was the original voiceover work, which was ripped right from the video. So black and white silent film with optional variants where you can have dialogue added over for more story context, but it is the original story, obviously. We aren't sure which section will be longer. Obviously, we want the, if any part is going to be shorter than the other, we want the dialogue and the audio, the story part, to be shorter, because we want to get, 10-second frames of each section at least. And with Sora providing 4 variants at maximum, we can get about 40-second clips for each paragraph. We can double it over and all that. There's a lot we could do with it, but we need to at least meet the minimum marking of audio needs to match up with video, and if the video needs to be longer than the audio to portray all the scenes in a video form, we will do that, although that's not my favorite option in the world. But there's no way to perfectly control how that works. There's gonna be a lot of it's gonna be a balance act to try to get the 2 different sections to match up as closely as possible, but we can't have infinite black screen with audio preaching out into the void. So that's the main thing we're trying to figure out right now. It's not on pause or anything, but we're trying, me mostly, obviously VCSN is interacting here, and I'm mostly spitballing what the current situation is, how we proceed, yada yada, etc., and seeing how it works. So we'll see how it works.
That was scattered-brained, but I get the gist. This project is definitely going to be our most time-consuming to date. It's never taken us 2 weeks to get 30 minutes of video footage before. And yet we only do have one good choice of video for it. And let's not forget Sora's major hindrance is the fact it can't make audio. And we can't just fill it with stock sounds that would sound god-awful.
Yeah, but amongst other things, I'm proud to say at least this project is going smoothly compared to half the times when I go to write a story. Adapting it into a different medium has been loads easier than making it from scratch, which would be a no shit Sherlock moment, but hey, it is what it is. But with that being said, yeah, we've practically gone over everything, haven't we? There's not a lot more to say though, buddy. And though, this has been one hell of an adventure that's gonna keep going and going and going until YouTube inevitably just gets wiped off the face of the earth by the sun one day, along with the rest of us. That is the cold truth, that is the cold reality, that is the cold spectrum, that is being alive. I don't know how many years I'm gonna live, I don't know how many years you're gonna live, I don't know how many years my AI is gonna live, I don't know how long OpenAI is gonna live. We don't even know how long Google is gonna live. But one thing's for damn sure, Florida will somehow outlive us all. I am convinced the sun will raise the earth, boil the oceans, devastate the mountains, clear the fields, wipe out our air supply, absolutely devastate the core of the earth to the point where it's nothing but a molten ball that is dripping from the bottom of the planet out into the cosmos, and somehow, some way, we will still have a bunch of people in Florida drinking beer over a barbecue, petting alligators with an American flag in the background that is somehow the size of the goddamn mountain known as Mount Everest. I have been Johnny Vanduke. Florida's gonna outlive us all. I am from Pennsylvania and I fear Florida. And well, I have been the Duke of Lancaster County. And maybe I should just consider moving to Florida. See yous next time.
Yeah, but the Duke of Orange County sounds lame as hell. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I look forward to helping Vanduke with future stories. See you all next time. And audio log.